Elys Games Technology, Mike Chavarella. He's the chairman of the board of Elys Game. How you doing today, Mike?
I'm doing very well. Thanks.
Awesome. I will let you take it away. I don't want to take up any more of your valuable time here.
Sure. Thank you very much. Well, thanks everyone for joining Elys Game Technology. We trade under the symbol ELYS on the NASDAQ and NEO stock exchanges. We're a sports betting technology company providing sports betting and iGaming solutions to customers. We have a very solid management team. I'm Mike Chavarella, the executive chairman, and many of our teams that operate the businesses have been in this industry for the better part of 20 years. Of course, we're going to present some forward-looking statements, and I recommend that we don't place too much reliance on these statements and ask that you attend to our SEC filings. So again, just to keep real quick here, we've got a very solid background, as I described. We've been in this industry for the better part of 2 decades. In the European, primarily the Italian market, we're a B2C operator, which means that we provide both land-based and online solutions where we provide our products via retail outlets throughout the country, be it convenience stores, coffee shops, ice cream shops, things of that nature. We also offer a mobile and PC-based solution as well, and we're licensed to do that. So we are actually a bookmaker and an iGaming provider through those channels. In addition, we own our own technology stack, which is essentially the big part of our story that we're going to talk about today. And we developed that technology stack only a few years ago. We launched it in August of 2017. And we believe that it's one of the newest betting platforms in the world, and it's going to be one of the key features of our company as we grow forward. So the numbers, the results of our operations speak for themselves. Are really quite solid. We had about 575 million in wagers in 2020, about 44% year-over-year growth, and our revenue is sitting around $37 million at the end of 2020. We're seeing that trend continue, and we've just recently reported Q1 results. We currently trade on the U.S. market at a market valuation about 82 million. So it's just, we believe it's undervalued compared to our peers, and that roughly is just under 2 times, roughly around 2 times revenue. So one of the key, as I mentioned, the key part of our story is our betting technology, and I'll describe as to why that is. But ultimately, it's one of the newest betting technologies in the world. It's built on a modular microservices design, so it allows us to have a very highly scalable product, and we're able to service not only large casinos and iGaming, or rather mobile and online operators, but also be able to narrow right down to the retail operator at the such as a coffee shop or bar or barbershop for that matter. So it's really quite scalable, and it's quite flexible to be able to provide this product to a very wide audience. The key part here is many people have been asking us, what is our game plan as it relates to the United States market? So what we've done in the last couple of years since the repeal of the sports betting prohibition is we've essentially sat on the sideline designing and developing a go-to-market strategy that I think is really quite unique in the U.S. What's important is prior to 2018, when the law was repealed, it was very difficult to actually create this environment because you didn't know what the market would look like. So we spent the better part of the past couple of years designing and developing a business model for the US. And that business model is like a B2B solution with our back-end technology, but we won't be the front-end provider. What we're going to be is the back-end and all of the services on an end-to-end solution so that we could service either online operators that want to offer PC and mobile betting in various states, or we can narrow it down right to a retail shop. And this is more or less a replication of what we do on a B2C basis in Italy. So we've set up this unique strategy, which is more like a B2B2C model. The U.S. market really is an exciting opportunity for any operator in our industry. It's going to be considered probably the largest regulated market in the world. We're going through phase number 1, essentially, which is the sports betting and the repeal, and the first phase is essentially the embracing of sports betting as a legal product, something that people are going to do and do as we speak. And the future will be the adoption where it's more mainstream and people are able to get a sports bet ticket like they're able to walk into a convenience store like a 7-Eleven or a restaurant and bar, like they're able to buy a lottery ticket at a kiosk. They're going to be in the next few years able to do that with sports betting as well. The second phase of adoption of this industry in the United States is going to be the iGaming adoption. So essentially, we think that there's extensive growth going on in the U.S., and it's going to be about a 10 to 15 year cyclical trend. So we expect over the next 10 to 15 years where the U.S. will be about a 30 to $35 billion market. And just to put that in comparison, the Italian market is one of the largest markets in Europe. And we are a significant player in the Italian market, but essentially the U.S. market is at least 6 times larger than that market. In Italy, there's about 58 to 60 operators. In the U.S., there's still less than roughly around 10 competent operators that are able to come into that market. So I believe that we're extremely well positioned as this market continues to unfold. One of the key value propositions here is in terms of our go-to-market strategy, is that we're pioneering a new segment of sports betting distribution in the U.S. We're going to be essentially we expect to be the first operator where we not only be able to service large casinos or like independent casinos, tribal casinos, and so on. And as I mentioned earlier, even online operators, but we're also going to be able to offer our product, our solution to small entrepreneurial businesses like cafes and coffee shops and bars and restaurants, et cetera. And that's really quite unique. So we're positioning the company to be ahead of the curve in terms of what some of our competing peers are currently offering in the United States. So again, as I mentioned, this is the next phase of the of U.S. sports betting, and now Maryland and Massachusetts are following DC in terms of adopting this B2B model that we're doing in DC. So just to put that in perspective, again, this is an opportunity where we're essentially inventing a process where we create a cookie cutter to be able to offer the same product and the same business model to small operators across the nation as those states start to evolve. So in terms of where we stand as a company, we're currently product ready. We spent the last couple of years, as I mentioned, studying the market, understanding what, the differences between the European movement of sports bet lines and things of that nature, understanding what product is required to be able to offer to the customer in the United States compared to the European customer. So we're product ready. We have our betting platform designed in its own environment for the US. So there won't be sort of cross-border interference of European lines and the way they offer sports in Europe with the U.S. We've got that sort of buffered, and we're also customer ready. And with our first the U.S. customer signed, and we're in the process of licensing in our first state. Just a quick shot on our current cash position and balance sheet and strength of the company. As you can see, we have a very good cash balance. We had a strong balance in December 31st, 2020. We had very little debt at that time. We're now have increased our cash position at March 31st and have no debt whatsoever. And we have a very solid backing from management. We own about 42% of the company, so we're very well vested with our investors. Again, a quick snapshot of our business operations and growth over the years. As I described, we've had exceptional growth in terms of our sales, which is the gross wagers, total turnover. And this top line here, starting from 2016 and on, essentially you can see the growth is quite extensive. And we had a big uptake there, as you can see, in 2017 and 2018. And those are the years that we launched our betting platform. And ultimately, just to describe that is a blend, again, of sports betting and iGaming, because we offer the full suite of products in the Italian market. As we go forward and open in the United States, it's going to be primarily sports betting as we go forward. Now, the reason why I talk about that is because the total revenue line here, you can see that is essentially our gross margin on product. And that, again, is a blended rate between iCasino and poker and lottery tickets and things of that, and products of that nature, which we call everything other than sports. And generally speaking, those products are fixed commission products. So there's really no risk on that product. The more we sell, the more commission we earn, but it's generally 8% or less. Where we get a much larger margin is on sports betting. But the issue there is that the sports betting is a risk product. Basically, we're competing with the customers. So the customers come in to take your money. So the concept here is that we have to manage our risk to be able to understand what we're offering to the customer in terms of odds, and we want to make sure that we're competing well. So we have to know the market. That product we generate about a 12 to 16% annual average hold. So we have a much larger hold on that product, but again, from a month to month, quarter to quarter basis, it fluctuates because that's the nature of sports betting. You just simply don't know what the result is going to be. So we're still getting a tremendously solid margin as a blended margin for our industry. And just a quick point on our bottom line, you can see that what we've done in 2017, we had no expense overhang. In other words, 2017 is a clean year, for example, to describe what our operations are in the European sector. So we're profitable in that sector. And if you look at our quarter and annual reports, you'll see that we do pay an income tax because we're generating profit. And from 2018 here, the sort of middle column, that was the year that they repealed PASPA. So we started to reinvest our profits back into the company. And hence we've had some expenses over the last couple of years. But again, what we're trying to do is manage it in a very prudent manner. So we're very tactical in terms of how we spend our money. And this was the cost of both the technology development for the United States and preparing the product for the US market post PASPA. And now we're in the process of preparing for our license. So that process is now underway. So we expect a lot of these costs to be reduced significantly in the next few years, and we'll start generating a revenue from the US market as well. So a couple of goals and milestones here quickly before we kind of get to Q&A. Again, we plan to be the first regulated Class B sports betting operator in the District of Columbia. We're keeping our fingers crossed, and we're being very respectful and working very hard with the regulator there to meet that goal. We have continuous growth in the Italian market. It's a very robust market, and in Italy in the next couple of years, we're going to see a renewal of licenses where very, very few companies will survive that renewal, and we expect to be one of those. And we expect to have some significant growth now that we're coming out of the COVID situation where all of our locations were closed in 2020, and we're going to slowly start seeing them open. More importantly, the United States market also is now starting to come out of COVID related restrictions, and we should start seeing that market also accelerate. A couple of highlights here that in terms of goals and where we want to get to. So clearly we have a run rate right now of about 37 million. We're hoping that we hit, or at least our goal for this year is about a $50 million revenue mark. And within the next 3 to 5 years, hit about 100 million in terms of once we get the US market open and we start to see some expansion both in Italy and in Europe. So again, we're in very good condition in terms of our cash flows and profitability. We have a very strong, very solid core foundational business in the Italian market that's allowing us to sustain our business. And we have a very good cash balance, and we're able to finance our US go forward plan over the next few years. So maybe with that, I'll just turn it over for some question and answer.
Awesome, Mike. That was great. I was going to ask about some goals that investors could look forward to, but you did it with the last 2 slides there, so I appreciate that. I think that the everything is becoming a game. Gamification is all over right now. Yeah. You mentioned something a few minutes ago. You talked about somebody going into a cafe and being able to do some iGaming or some betting. Like what kind of like games will they be playing, or what kind of betting would they be doing in something like a cafe?
Sure. So remember, a cafe would be a land-based location. So you wouldn't be able to play like an online event,
right?
For example, poker or iCasino or things of that nature. You'd have to go to a physical casino or to play the game, or play on your mobile phone or PC. What we're seeing introduced here in the U.S. particularly is in a land-based in a cafe is sports betting, and that really is where the difference is. That where right now you're not able to. You might be able able to play a Keno game at a bar or counter or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
but you certainly can go into a convenience store or any place in downtown USA and be able to go to a kiosk and buy a lottery ticket for the Powerball event that weekend. But what you don't have right now, and what's been prohibited up until 2018, is sports betting. So we're going to see in the next few years where you can go to one of these kiosks or convenience store, or even go to a cafe or restaurant or even a barber shop, and while you're getting your haircut, you can argue with the barber about who's going to win the game, right?
Right.
And you're going to be able to within the location be able to place a bet or wager against the barber, you know. So I mean that is mainstream in Europe and even in Canada per se. And we also understand that sports betting really in the United States, the folks are crazy about their team. So sports betting, even though it's been prohibited, has been ongoing, but now it's coming into the mainstream.
I got you. A couple more questions. Probably have time here. I'm going to put this one on the stream. Will the company be partnering with any betting site giants that you know of right now?
Well, we always are looking at what we call a carousel of opportunities, and because they keep going around and around and around.
I'm sure.
So, you know, what we want to do, and I think this goes back to one of my slides, is we're being very, very methodical, very surgical about our go-to-market strategy in the U.S. So the game plan is very simple, and I know sometimes it's a bit frustrating for investors and even some of our partners to go, oh, when are you going to hurry up, get it done. But the bottom line is this, is that we have to be very careful. Remember, sports betting is a very unique commercial product. There's no other product like it in the world. You don't actually have a product to sell until the game ends. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You don't know what you're selling. You
right.
know, whatever happens in the game, it's going to happen in the future. So because of that, what we need to do importantly is we need to launch our platform Real Money in the US. So we're waiting for our first license. We're being extremely prudent on that process. We now have developed the platform. We know exactly what we're going to offer, but we need to have it launched, let it run for 30 or 40 days so that the algorithms could get, you know, sharpened up and you can make sure that there's no bugs. Then you have a great product that you can then confidently talk to the giants, talk to the large casinos that are going to be offering sports betting as an ancillary product, talk to the franchise chains, restaurants, the 7-Elevens of the world, if I may. You know, those are the kind of customers that we're going to be able to now demonstrate our product live and in real money in the US. And then, of course, once we have that first license, all the other states become provisional per se. So essentially, the first state is going to be key. It's a major catalyst for us. And it's going to be how we're going to be approaching all of even the independent and tribal casinos. There's a massive market in the United States that we're going to be approaching.
Great. So good segue there. And just like maybe one more minute left here, but a really good question here from Mike. Oh, he's saying, how big is the potential for the niche Elys is trying to carve out in the US? And you kind of just were touching on that. So have at it.
Well, maybe I could just even just articulate it even better.
Sure.
We do know that in some countries, the casino landscape is not as large, if you will, as the U.S. market. They might have sort of key areas that are casino driven, for example, Macau or even Monte Carlo, whatever. But in the U.S., we have casinos blanketed across the nation. There's about 4,000, give or take, casinos across the nation, be it independent casinos, particularly like in California and so on, but also tribal casinos. But just to put that in perspective, the restaurant bar market in the U.S. is about 600,000 to 700,000 potential locations across the United States. So we see a massive opportunity, providing the state-by-state regulations allow these small entrepreneurial shops, which in our opinion are the engine of the economy, particularly in coming out of COVID, where a lot of these small operators or restaurants, they need this sort of ancillary opportunity and revenue for their businesses. Put it in perspective. We know that essentially a restaurant could probably drive about 3 times its revenue by having sports betting in their venue, where people can go to the to the venue for beer and wings, if you will, and then play the sports. And that ultimately is the environment we're trying to create. So it's massive and it's exponential in potential growth.
Love it, Mike. A lot of really good stuff. Elys Games, Mike Chavarella, he's the chairman of Elys Games, and elysgame.com is the website there. We're going to let you go get on to your Friday. Thanks a lot for joining today, Mike. It was great.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having us. We'll see you soon.